Hello everybody, it's me, Riffraff Hornhelm, and I'm back again with another presentation from the Dwarven Vault. And today we have a monster review. Now today's monster review is the Hill Giant. And that's from the original monster manual as used with basic Dungeons & Dragons and advanced Dungeons & Dragons, or what's typically known today as 1E. So the Hill Giant. Hopefully you've already seen the video that has to do with the shared attributes of giants, but the Hill Giant is the least powerful of the 6 giants that make up the class of giants in the monster manual. They're not that big. They're about 10.5 feet tall. So even something like an Etten or a Treant is going to be a bigger critter than this one is. But they do a fair amount of damage. Now, once again, if you understand the progression of giants, this particular giant has a strength of 19. That's pretty good right there. And they do 2 to 16 points of damage. It's by weapon type, but typically they use like a large tree branch club type thing. Now they also have their own specific power, which of course as a giant goes, means throwing rocks. They can throw a rock up to 200 feet. And that rock can do 2 to 16 points of damage, which is decent. And once again, they attack separately in hand-to-hand combat, and that also does 2 to 16 points of damage. They're not the most powerful of the giants out there when it comes to hit dice and all that kind of good stuff. They are an 8 hit dice creature with +1 to 2. Okay, that means that you would roll a die to determine whether it's a +1 or a +2 at the end of that 8 hit dice. And they have an armor class of 4, which isn't that difficult. Typically they wear like sewn together skins and things like this. They live in desolate areas and tend to be in underground dwellings, caverns, something of that nature. And they stay away from people as much as possible. The desolate areas are obviously hilly, since this is a hill giant, and they'll usually be somewhere up on the hills. They're not up in the mountains, but they'll be in the hills. Now these are common. As it comes to giants, this is the only common giant that there is out there. And from a wandering standpoint, you can run into 1 to 10 of these. So that's fairly significant. Once again, if it's a larger number, a proportion, and those details are in the specific description in the book. It really doesn't serve much here. You'll need to look that up if you're going to have a larger group. But a proportion of it will be female and young. Now, one thing to be aware of is if you run into them in their lair, which is also where you're most likely to run into additional ones, giants always seem to have some kind of relationship with other creatures that they employ as guards or watchdogs or in that type of a function. And in the case of the hill giant, those can be a number of dire wolves or giant lizards and a group of ogres. On the large size, say for the ogres, I think the maximum can be 8, and I think with the lizards it's like 2 or something like that. They're pretty big creatures right there. But that's if you encounter them in their lair. They'll have those there to assist with the defense of the lair, along with any females and young. So really, when it comes to giants, like I said, this is the easiest of them to deal with. It's also very low intelligence, and it is a chaotic evil creature. And because of that low intelligence, you're going to have the opportunity to maybe trick it in negotiations or trick it in general because it's just not that swift on the uptake. So from the Dwarven perspective, we don't really like these. They dwell underground in hills, and we run into them every once in a while. But having said that, this is not the toughest one for us to deal with either. We're usually able to evict them pretty easily, and if we actually have to uh, um, terminate them, I don't know, end them, it's not something that's impossible for us to do because, frankly, they're not that many hit points. They don't have that strong of an armor class. They don't have any resistance to magic. They're something that can be dealt with. But of course, we had to go out to the Hornhelm community and find out, well, what was their opinion on this. And in the greater Hornhelm community, amongst the dungeon masters, the ranking for this particular creature was just a solid 4. We didn't find it to be that big of an obstacle for groups unless they were very, very low level. And really, that was something that you could deal with as long as there wasn't a large number of them. In a larger group, well, that's a little bit different story. But in general, the DMs definitely called it as a 4. I've used them before myself. I wouldn't disagree with that assessment. Talking to the players, same. They came back and said, yeah, it's pretty much a solid 4. They can be a little bit difficult sometimes if you're lower level because they have enough hit points to last a while, and they do a fair amount of damage for something that you're going up against if you're, say, a third or a fourth level character. But in general, they said, yeah, no, it's a solid 4. Makes sense to me. So really, that, my friends, is the Hill Giant. We hope you found this interesting, educational, entertaining, all that kind of good stuff. If you did, please give us a like. Consider sharing with your friends. Drop us a comment. Subscribe if you haven't already. But most of all, come back and see us again real soon. We very much appreciate your kind support. Take care, everyone. And remember, Dwarves rock!